Well, hello Booktube, hello book friends. Welcome or welcome back to my channel and another video. It's Tuesday again, so that means it's time for a tag video. And this is the Booktuber Name Tag 2025. It's a brand new original tag created by Aaron at Aaron Read a Book. And I was tagged by Pat at Book Chat with Pat. Thank you, Pat. Each one of these prompts, of which there are 10. Yeah, well, 10 and tag others. Each one is based on the name of a Booktube channel. Yeah, that's it. So that each prompt is a Booktube channel name with a little bit of an explanation about what you need to do. There are 10 of them. Let's get started. I think this tag was one that I don't know when I know Pat tagged me. I should stop recording early in the morning because it really doesn't work. Pat tagged me somewhere last week, and I can't remember what day it was. And I looked at the prompts and thought, I don't know what I'm going to pick for a few of these, so I need to think about this. Sometimes the books I know exactly the book for that prompt. This one I was kind of a bit the other way around, and there were only a couple where I thought, I don't know quite what to put. But I think I enjoy it more that way because it makes me kind of think a bit more about the books that I own and go to the shelves and look for things that fit. So let's get started properly. So the first one, prompt number 1, books and bocadillos. A book which features or is about food. I had a couple in mind for this. And as I was looking for another book, I came across and realised I had this particular copy of this particular book. And now this author is a spy thriller writer, very famous spy thriller writer. But you may not know that he was also a food columnist for the Observer newspaper in the UK. And if you haven't worked out who it is by that description, I'll give you a name of a couple of his famous books. So he wrote the Ipcress Files. He wrote SSGB. He wrote the Game Set Match, Hook, Line, Sinker, Faith, Hope and Charity trilogy of trilogies. Do you know who it is yet? It's Len Deighton. Len Deighton wrote all of those books and many more, mostly spy thrillers, many featuring a character who in most of the books isn't named, but in the films is known as Harry Palmer, who was played by Michael Caine. And on the front of this book, there is a Michael Caine quote. Len was a great cook, a smashing cook. I learned a lot about food from playing Harry Palmer. So what am I talking about? Is this a spy thriller, I hear you ask? No, it's a cookbook. It is an actual cookbook. It is Len Deighton's action cookbook. And I don't think I've cooked very much out of this. But there's lots of different things in here. Different everything from drinks through to kind of big meals, and sort of how to make different sauces like béarnaise sauce, how to make different pastries, so all sorts of things. It's great. It's a really fun book. I probably ought to spend more time picking out things to cook from it. But yeah, so that's prompt number 1, Len Deighton's action cookbook. Prompt number 2 is genre books. So, a book you like in a genre you don't usually read. I was struggling with this, I have to say. I read most genres. About the only genre I don't really read is romance. and even then, I don't think I could pick a romantic fiction novel because I don't know any, basically. But the second, probably the least read genre for me is probably plays, if that's a genre. So I've picked a play that I first saw as a production and then read latterly, and I'm going to try and read again at some point. And that is William Shakespeare's The Tempest. And I don't know how clear that's coming up because it's got a lovely cover. I think if I hold it just there, it seems to be coming up on the screen. So yeah, William Shakespeare's The Tempest. I don't really remember much about it, so I do need to reread it. But I've got a few of Shakespeare's plays that I want to reread. I wanted to reread them last year, just didn't get to. I think I only got to Macbeth and none of the others. So yeah, The Tempest for prompt number 2. Prompt number 3, Bookstalgic, a book that makes you feel nostalgic. Now this is one that I think I've used as an answer to a prompt in another tag, and it's the first book in a series of 5 books. And the reason it makes me feel nostalgic is because whenever I read it, I can remember when I first read it, which was just before a school summer holiday when I was at primary school. So I would have been about, I don't know, 9 or 10 or 11 or something like that. And it always makes me remember hot summers playing outdoors as a kid. It's Oversea Under Stone, and as I say, it's the first book in Susan Cooper's The Dark is Rising sequence. I don't have it as an individual. I've only got the compendium of all 5. But it is one of my kind of favourite children's books. So and it always makes me feel that way whenever I read it or think about it. Prompt number 4, Book, Songs and Other Magic, a book about or featuring music or magic. Bonus points for magical music. Well, I don't know about the magical music bit. Magical poems, maybe? Does that count? Again, a book that I first read when I was at school, and I nearly put this for the previous prompt because it always reminds me. I read this. I think we read it at school as a read along, and again in primary school, and then I reread it during a school summer holiday. Each morning I'd read a chapter still in bed before I got up, and my mum would let me stay in bed reading, and say I would read a chapter and then get up and go out to do whatever we were doing that particular day. And it's a book that I love, and again another book that I really like, and I couldn't find my posh copy. I don't know where it's gone. I've got one of those. I've got a copy that looks like the copy that I read originally, if that makes sense, although it's a reprinted modern version of it. So I only managed to find a paperback copy, a reading copy, so never mind. But it's The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. So plenty of magic in here with Gandalf, and as I say, I think a few kind of magical poems and songs, but yeah, the dwarves sing and things like that. So yeah, that's my Book, Songs and Other Magic, a book about or featuring music or magic. 5, I don't have a physical copy of this, so I'll have to put a thingy up one side or the other. And this is Passage of Time, a book that is set over a long time frame. And for this, I've chosen 7 Eves by Neil Stevenson. And this is a book that is kind of starts in the modern day and goes into the future, and it's set into the future over thousands of years. I think it's sort of 5,000 or 6,000 years. It starts with the moon exploding and goes from there. So yeah, it's a book I read. Oh God, it's me. A few years ago now. I haven't reread it since, but I do remember it. It has a phenomenally long time frame. So that's the book I'm choosing for Passage of Time. Prompt number, where are we? 6. Your True Self, a book you couldn't believe was a true story. Now, I read quite a lot of non-fiction, including a lot of kind of military history non-fiction. And there was one book that I read a year or two ago now that I thought at the time, this just cannot be real. This is not non-fiction. This is fiction. This is just made up. But it is true. It's kind of real. It's somewhere between sort of Boy's Own Adventure, stroke, Alistair MacLean, stroke, Tom Clancy. I don't know how to quite describe it, but it is an incredible read. I don't know if it's still in print because my copy is a few years old, and it's basically in the Second World War there was something called motor torpedo boats. The German equivalent was the Schnell boat. And they were basically relatively small, very fast, lightly armoured, quite heavily gunned boats that would go out on raids and attack enemy shipping in both Allied to Axis and Axis to Allied. And the book is a story of one man's kind of experiences during that time that he was on a motor torpedo boat, and the book is Motor Gunboat 658 by L.C. Reynolds. And as I say, this just reads like fiction. It just really does, but it isn't. It is true stories, and it's just incredible. I mean, somebody asked me for a war fiction recommendation over the weekend, and I very nearly said, "Don't bother with that. Just read this." And then I thought, actually, you probably can't get hold of a copy, so I recommended some other things. But yeah, this is just blew my mind that's true. Spread book joy, a joyous book that makes you happy. I've gone for something slightly controversial because this book does make me happy, but it is very dark at times. It's not. I don't think it's. I think it's meant to have. It has a happy ending, and I think it is meant to be read in some ways as a happy book, but it is very dark in places. Yeah, I love it. It's got to be coming up for 50 years old. Let me have a look. See when it was originally published. The copy I have here is a 40th anniversary edition. Oh, first published 1972, so it's as old as me. So it's 50. It'll be 53 this year. So yeah, and this was a 2012 edition. Have I really had it that long? Blimey! I've got several copies, but this is the 40th anniversary edition. I'd be interested if there's a 50th anniversary edition. What's the book? Stop yakking and tell us what the book is, I hear you say. It's Richard Adams' Watership Down. As I say, quite dark in places, but I find this is for me a very happy book. Anyway, and it all works out in the end. So I would thoroughly if you haven't read it, I would thoroughly recommend it. I really would. I know it's about rabbits, but so what? Why not? Prompt number 8, and this is Book Chat with Pat, who tagged me. So thanks again, Pat. I mean, I'm really enjoying this tag. Book Chat with Pat, a book with great dialogue, and I have to say, her videos have some great commentary, and it really does feel like a book chat when she's putting out a video. This is one that I kind of thought I really know what I'm gonna choose, and or I knew the author I was going to choose, and I've just picked a book by that author, not specifically because this book is, although this book is a good representation of the prompt, but all of his books, as far as I can tell, are, and all of them have great dialogue in, and they are Robert B. Parker's Spencer series, which, for those of you who don't know, Robert B. Parker is a predominantly a crime fiction author, although he's written a few westerns and other things as well. But he wrote a long-running, I don't know how many books are in the series in total, must be 30 plus, I would think, books about a Boston private detective called Spencer, who invariably hangs out with how would I describe it? Hired gun thug called Hawk. And the dialogue in the books is great, particularly between Spencer and Hawk. This is one that's fairly early in the series, called Early Autumn, and they're all kind of one story per book kind of thing, but it went running for a very long time, and I'm sad to say that they're one of the authors who is now written by several other authors. This is the thing that bugs me a bit. It's Robert B. Parker Spencer, written by so and so, and he wrote other characters as well, and they've all kind of, and just bugs me, and I'm never going to get over that. It's just, there's pastiche fiction, and then there's just continuing it for the financial gain associated with it, and that bugs me. But that's my book with great dialogue. Any Robert B. Parker has great dialogue in it, but that's just an example. Roving Reader, a book that is set in multiple countries or lands. Now I'm just going to take the dust jacket off of this one, just because I want to hold up the book so that you can see the end papers, because it has fantastic end papers. So if this, how well that's showing up. This book starts and finishes in London, and it is a journey pretty much across Asia, there and back again kind of thing, and across what would have been the USSR in those days, and it is Paul Theroux's The Great Railway Bazaar. Paul Theroux, I think, is one of my favourite travel writers. He redid that journey, I think it was back in the early 2000s, And his only concession to modern travel was he took a, well, that would have been then a BlackBerry with him, just so that he could communicate, because he felt his family said they wanted him to take that so that they could contact him because he was getting a bit older. So this was originally written in 1975, so almost as old as Watership Down and almost as old as me. But yeah, that's my Roving Reader book. And then final prompt number 10, bonus, a book that matches your own channel name or a channel you love. Now, my channel is Alan's Reads, so I'm taking a bit of a kind of literal leap and using a book that is written by another Alan, you know. And again, a book from my childhood that I love, a book that I read at school, and that is Alan Garner's Elidor. So this is, it's a bit, if you've never read it, it's in the kind of, it's in the Susan Cooper kind of The Dark is Rising, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, that kind of spot in children's genre literature. Can't speak. It's children's literature. So on a gloomy day in Manchester, Roland, Helen, Nicholas and David are lured to a ruined church where the fabric of time and place is weak enough to draw them into the twilight world of Elidor. What's not to like? So yeah, I'd recommend that as well. So that's it. Tag some others. Prompt number 11. I will tag some people in the description box. I think a lot of people, I know Pat tagged a lot of people with me. So I need to have a look and see who hasn't been tagged and tag a few people. But that's it. I've thoroughly enjoyed this tag. So thank you, Pat. Thank you, Aaron, for coming up with it originally. And if you have been, thank you for watching. And I will speak to you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.